Let's talk Coastal Curiosities Naturalist Edition versus the Standard Edition. Hi, my name's Lennox and I am the creator of Coastal Curiosities Oracle Deck, and today we will be doing a flip through comparison of the newest version, the Naturalist Edition, versus the standard original version. Let's take a look. So I want to put out a few disclaimers before we get started flipping through the cards. This version that you're seeing here is just a prototype. It is not the production sample or the final version at all, so please do keep that in mind. These look identical, but this one has gone through some changes and some production upgrades. So just a heads up at that. We will be flipping through the books really quick. We will be looking at some new cards in the Naturalist Edition, and we will be talking artwork a little bit. Really quickly on the guidebooks, once again, the final production of the Naturalist Edition's guidebook will be saddle stitched and not the perfect bound, so keep that in mind, but we will definitely just take a look. So you can see right off the bat, the covers have changed. The Naturalist Edition has gone to a more like old antique book style cover, where the Standard Edition features the Coastal Curiosities like classic sort of logo or symbol for the deck on a vintagey pattern background. So let's take a look really quick at the Standard Edition. So we can see here that we feature the 2 pages per card entry, and we have all the collage elements here laid out in the page that talks about the artwork itself and kind of describes exactly what the scene is. And then the pages on the left are the card's meaning with some keywords. So we can see it's really playful, really shows all of the elements, breaks it down piece by piece, just as I've written the descriptions here. So this is really fun. This is very engaging, very immersive in the world. And as you'll see, when we flip to the Naturalist Edition, then we've moved into a more traditional journal style layout. There are now definitions underneath each card's keyword. And I did this. One, I love the sort of technicality of it, and it goes to the theme of the deck very well, but also just to give you some insight of like exactly the angle of the keyword I'm taking. Once again, you can totally take that how you want to, but that is there now. You can see the layout has slightly changed from the standard. We've moved into this sort of like faux tape and paper mock-up of just the artwork instead of the whole card artwork. We are now just seeing that. So you can kind of see, let's see. You can kind of see the difference here. So I feel like the standard really plays into like the colorful artwork, which we'll see here shortly. So we have that, we still have the 3 keywords, and I've categorized these as like impressions. So basically this style here, what I've tried to do is mimic a field journal. A little bit of a scientific approach meets creative art approach. So we have the impressions, which would be like first impressions of your discovery, but those are the 3 extra keywords that are featured in the Standard Edition. They've just been moved here. The analysis is the card meaning, and then the observation is the description of the artwork itself, where you can find the elements listed in there. A little more information, a slightly different layout, but the bulk of it's there. And then also I have edited this whole book and shifted some things around, especially in the analysis section. Rewrote a little bit just so it was a little more clear. It flowed a little easier. Some spots felt a little crunchy, like a little hard to get through. So I just wanted that to be like more of a smooth read. That was heavily edited. It has the same meaning. I just cleaned up the writing pretty much. You might just notice some shift of language, or maybe some sentences removed or a new one added. The original intent and context is still there. So that was a lot about the books. So let's move on to what we all really want to see, which is cards. Let's flip through the cards. I am going to chat while I flip. Before we start, let's just take a quick little breakdown of each edition. So you'll notice here on the left is the Naturalist Edition, and on the right here we have the Standard Edition. The Standard Edition features the full colorful backgrounds and the bold modern shapes. These shapes are very much in my style of analog collage, which is why you'll see those included through here. And then the Naturalist is the very bare bones, stripped back, stripped down, pared down, whatever you want to call it, version where I've removed the shapes and the colors of the background, but the antique textures and like patterns are still featured in the Naturalist Edition, just in an array of brown neutral tones. Everything else has stayed the same. There is now a very faint white kind of strip or a box behind the keywords here. Once again, playing into a little bit of that journal and like tape and paper style. Also, I felt like it was a really good visual anchor for the Naturalist Edition because the shapes of the Standard Edition really anchor the artwork down and your eye bounces around and lands on the keyword, so it looks okay floating in space, where this one with the shapes removed, the keyword especially was like way too floaty, so that's where I brought that in. So as you'll see, not much has changed, though you'll see that there is a different vibe between them. It almost feels like two different decks in a way to me. I would certainly say that decks that I would pair with the standard colorful edition here versus the more neutral Naturalist Edition, I think will be different. I think there are also crossovers where you probably could still pair them up, you know, with the same decks you're doing with the full color version. But yeah, I think it just opens the kind of door to some new fresh pairings for the deck, which I think is always really fun because who doesn't love pairings? Who doesn't love a reason to maybe bring in a new deck into the collection, you know? So I think that will be a really fun aspect to this. I've always really liked this card. It's like one of my favorites. I will say something that is challenging when working with animals in artwork and wanting to call them out and perhaps pull in their energy into the concept or messaging of the card, to get it right because the file names don't always have the correct name of the creature. Sometimes they don't have anything coherent in the file name at all. Then I go on this really long reverse Google image search, and then I start comparing photos of other searches, and it really turns in the whole rabbit hole of trying to identify one thing. So if you ever see something and it feels questionable, then just know I did my best and I very well be wrong. Open for interpretations, always. This is also one of my favorite cards. I think it was like one of my first cards that I also created as well. This one I feel like always has a special place for me, and I love the faucet out of the bird's nest here, and then what's growing out of the bird's nest is a weed, right? Like I just like looking at this dandelion that people usually view as like a nuisance in their yard, but how it's thriving and growing. But with the possibility of opening that faucet and letting what come out, well, that's up for you to decide there. I think the Naturalist Edition is a really cool way to look at the collage as well. I wanted to really lean into a bit of a natural history vibe with the Naturalist Edition, which is why you see the guidebook slightly reinvented, where the backgrounds are now super like toned down to let the collage and the objects and animals in the collage to really do the shining and to really be the feature. When I look at the Standard Edition here, it feels like a complete art piece, right? Where this I'm seeing as more of like pulled from a sketchbook, torn from a journal, found in the wild, right? You're like just finding the pieces together, where I feel like this is like the pieces have found kind of their place, you know? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just what the shapes do for me. They really are an anchor point in the artwork. You know, I know they might look just like random shapes thrown on there, but they're certainly purposely placed and perfected in their positionings. But yeah, I do really love both of these editions, and I cannot wait to see the final piece of this one because it is going to be really gorgeous. I mean, the colors, the boldness, everything's going to be so much more vivid than what you're seeing right here. And eventually the standard edition and the pocket edition will be done in the way the production is done in the Naturalist Edition. So let's keep flipping. I hope you're liking the comparison here. This was one of the new cards in the second edition. This was one of the first cards I made, first edition. Pursue, I love how this just reminds me of like stress dreams I have. Like I'm trying to get somewhere and I freaking can't. Everything is catching my ankles. But yeah. This card's so sweet to me. So what are you thinking? How are you liking the comparison? This one almost is like a straight across. The backgrounds look very similar, don't they? So I think some are gonna feel a bit more natural in terms of maybe you don't notice a difference, and then others I think are going to be a bit more of a shakeup. I love how this one really pops off in the Naturalist Edition. I think that's something you'll also notice is that maybe ones that didn't really kind of pop off the page, didn't have as high of contrast before, might be more contrasty in the Naturalist Edition now as well. We are getting through this. Submerge. I do love this support card. It's so sweet, isn't it? And then we of course are going to have to look at the 6 new cards in the Naturalist Edition, because that's only right, that's only fair. Unearth, I feel like this is another one that feels almost like a simple crossover, but yeah, the missing shapes really do something else for it, doesn't it? You can really see, I mean, for me, it's like I can see how it works and I can see how it works without as well. We got 2 more left here. Withdraw with the little chickens pushing along their coral. Always have to include the sea elements into the forest element. I feel like this is like everyone's favorite. I mean, it's definitely one of my favorites as well. Wonder. So let's look at the 6 new cards. So the 6 new cards are coming in a specimen pack, which is basically my way of saying expansion pack, but in a very cute and thematic way. You will get 6 new cards, making the deck a total of 60. It also, the expansion pack, the specimen pack, will come with a guidebook, which I think is rather unusual for a expansion pack, but I just couldn't not include write-ups for the new cards as well. I mean, it only seemed fair. Same exact style in this guidebook as the main one. It's almost just like a little extra journal that you had to throw in your bag with new discoveries. So it's pretty cute, right? Like this is your mainstay and then like this is your little your little side journal. Cute. So for the specimen pack cards, I went with a slightly different, moodier direction, while I feel like the rest of the 54 cards have some like slight highs and lows, but I think they're rather neutral. So I wanted these to have like a little bit more of a very slight attitude. So we have Adrift here, once again playing with the coast, the woods, the land, the sea, the sky. Really try to bring in those elements all together. Boundaries, I love how this one turned out. The Man-O-War is such a iconic jellyfish. Had to be included, right? Frighten, this is my perfectionist card. This is for me. Who doesn't love a pufferfish? I actually ended up putting a pufferfish in my upcoming Oracle deck, Lucky Finds number 9. So they have also found their way into Coastal Curiosities. A goose, I had to include a mix of like sea and land for the creatures, right? We have survival with the martin here and the cabbage. I love the color. I think this one's probably my favorite out of the new ones. Trapped with the orca whale, with this lasso rope, diving down with the crystals that I named, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Same with the flowers. Are those like morning glories? I don't remember, but it's in the book. Let's just check really quick. How well did I do? Oh gosh. Oh, dwarf morning glory. See, I remembered, just as an example of how, if you aren't familiar with Coastal Curiosities or the guidebook, The bolded words in the observation section will pinpoint you to what is in the card artwork for you to then go on and do your own research if that's something that you wanted to do. Maybe down the road I can do a much more in-depth guidebook like I did for the Peculiar Pathways Tarot, where I broke down each symbol and gave a brief blurb of what it meant for it in that card. So that is that. Let me know what you think, how you're feeling. Here's the backs. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for listening to me yap, yak, gab, and all the things. I hope you enjoyed hearing a bit more about the cards and about the upcoming Naturalist Edition. So let me know what you think, and we will chat soon. Bye.